Rudy Mergelman is here, Travis Payne is here, and Dale McCullough is here. With that, would you join me in the roll call pledge of allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, appreciate that. Our last meeting was December 3rd, so it's been a year. My goodness, it seems that way, doesn't it? And I'd like to call for an approval of the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye. Aye.
Thank you for that. And then we've got the minutes from the December 3rd, 2024 meeting. And hopefully everybody's had a chance to review those. Any changes or additions? Hearing none, I stand ready for a motion.
I make a motion, we accept the minutes as written.
Second.
Thank you. Want to get it started?
Aye.
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 That's good. I already signed them. So thank you for validating that.
Just keep it out of trouble.
We have no unfinished business. We do have in front of us new business, CDP 24-001, Penrose RV and Boat Storage, which is requesting approval for a commercial development plan. The proposed use will be a storage unit for RVs and boats located at 17225 State Highway 115 in Penrose, Colorado. And with that, Dan, do you want to talk to us first about this, or should we?
Up to you guys. Do you guys want to open, or do you guys want to? You go first. You guys want? Okay.
So we're ready. If you'd like to go first, please.
No, I said you could go first.
Oh.
So.
Sounds good. All right. Hello, everyone. Good to see you. So what we have in front of us here today is CDP 24-001, Penrose RV and Boat Storage, located at 17225 State Highway 115 in Penrose. Owner's name is, I believe it's Epcoco REI 1 LLC. Owner's John Edgar. Representative is Anna Flucky. So the request is for the approval of a commercial development plan. Department File CDP 24001, Penrose RV and Boat Storage by John Edgar, for the property which is located on the northwest side of State Highway 115, is directly adjacent to undeveloped platted H Street on the west side in Penrose. The property use has been vacant for many years with a 900 square foot permitted garage on the parcel. The property use will be for storage units for RVs and boats. Storage units will be pre-engineered metal units. The facility will be strictly self-storage, open to customers approximately 365 days each year, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Access will be gained through assigned personal gate codes. The parcel is located in the business zone district. To the north is business zone, and then to the east, west, and southerly is residential 2. Total acreage is 1.36 acres. There's utilities to the site or available to the site. The north and west boundary of this parcel has Beaver Park water with a ditch. CDOT has reviewed and issued a permit, which I'll touch on a little bit later. Traffic count provided seem reasonable. There's one access point out to State Highway 115. The correct number of parking spaces, lighting plan provided, landscaping, drainage plan was approved. So substantially complete. We have everything that we need. They've checked all the boxes there. We have been working on this project since last February. So we've been actively working back and forth on this one. So there is, back in August and then again in September, there was an application went to BOZA regarding this parcel. And at that, a variance was granted. So after the meeting on August 20th, the Department of Planning and Zoning, a BOZA meeting, the Department of Planning and Zoning determined there was misleading, inaccurate, or false information given to the Board of Zoning Adjustments and our department. This determination led to the rescheduling of the application to be heard on September 17th for a second review. The applicant did feel that the wording I just used it seemed harsh and requested staff revise it, but that is the exact language that was provided in that report, so I didn't want to modify that. So I felt that would, a revision or correction would not be necessary. There are no outside agency concerns. All of the submittal requirements have been met unless otherwise noted as a contingency item. The applicant is requesting a waiver from sanitation and refuse. Variants that have been granted so far, Planning and Zoning did an administrative approval to allow the map scale to be less than our regulation, or to be 1 in 30, which is outside what our regulations allow for. BOZA did grant a front yard setback adjacent to Highway 115. The business zone district has a minimum of 40 feet in the front. BOZA did grant a variance for 10 feet. So department recommendations. The department has reviewed the application and found it to be complete and true representation of the request as stated herein. The department finds that all requirements per the Fremont County zoning development regulations were not satisfied by this application, and the department actually recommends denial due to the following reasons. So per the Fremont County zoning resolution, section 7.4, BOZA powers. 7.4.3, BOZA shall have the power to grant variance from provisions of this resolution, but only where all of the following conditions are found to exist. So in the BOZA section, it does talk about the intent of the regulations and other things, but that is followed up by where all of the following conditions must exist, and there's 4 of them. So 7.4.3.1, the variance would not authorize any use other than those enumerated as a use by right in the zone district, and that the essential character of the zone district would not be altered. We actually feel that the application met this requirement. 7.4.3.2, an unnecessary hardship to the owner could be shown to occur if the provisions of this resolution were strictly interpreted. The department feels the owner has created an unnecessary hardship in order to yield the highest return for this development. This development could meet all requirements with a revised development plan. At the first BOZA meeting, the consultant did provide an option number 2 that showed all required setbacks could be met if redesigned. 7.4.3.3, the circumstances found to constitute a hardship either were not created by the owner or were in existence at the time of the passage of this resolution and cannot reasonably be corrected. We feel the owner has created the hardship by the design that's being presented. This is a conforming lot that could meet all of the minimum requirements of section 4.14.5 of the development requirements. So a different design could meet everything, and that variance would not have been needed. And then, of course, we have 7.4.3.4. The variance would not be inconsistent with the intent or purpose of this resolution, or would not prejudicially, I apologize on that. That's not going to be said correctly today. Affect the health, safety, and general welfare of the inhabitants of the county, and we feel that it meets this requirement. So of the 4 criteria that BOZA had to grant that variance to allow this design to work, we feel that the applicant and this design has only met 2 of them. So all procedure requirements have not been met per the Fremont County zoning resolution. We have a proposed site will not impair the public health, welfare, prosperity, and safety by undesirable sanitary conditions, overburdening of utilities, or adverse environmental influences. We feel with the request for the waiver from sanitation, with that individual site location, no real retail establishments anywhere in the area, and the fact that the one entire property line is Beaver Park water ditch, that some method of sanitation would be appropriate on this site. We know it's not going to be manned, but we feel with the ditch there that this is a unique circumstance, and especially with the area not having many options. The other deal is a hazardous spill plan address signage and security cameras, but not a cleanup procedure. So one of the issues we had with that is it's great to identify who made a spill, but since this is a storage area for vehicles and boats, we feel that the likelihood for some sort of, whether it be oil line spill, something that may happen, it's great to identify that, but a plan was never submitted to how they would address such incident. So, and then we have B, the site is sufficient in size to accommodate the proposed use together with all yards, setbacks, open spaces, walls, fences, parking, and loading facilities, landscaping, and such other provisions required by this resolution. And again, that's that BOZA variance that we feel was issued in error. So the department would recommend a new application to meet all of Fremont County's regulations and a revocation of the BOZA variance. However, if the commission chooses to recommend approval, the department would recommend approval with the following: meet all of the contingency items and a denial of the sanitation waiver. And for the contingency items, we have provide a hazardous spill procedure plan that addresses any on-site contamination. A CDOT permit has been issued, but a notice to proceed has not been. So we would need, basically when CDOT goes out and inspects, they do a release of their permit. So we would request that be a contingency. Number 3, an approved noxious weed control plan. Correspondence back and forth between the applicant and our noxious weed control department stated that upon approval, you can submit for a noxious weed control plan then, which is satisfactory. And then installation of a fire hydrant per the fire marshal. So that's my staff report.
Thank you for that, Dan.
Yes.
Would the applicant care to address this?
So we just wanted to check a couple of things. Did the staff review obviously our comments as well?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, wonderful.
Yes, and it is part of the staff report that's provided to everyone.
Good.
So there is a copy of it in the folder.
Thank you. We
Yes.
just wanted to clarify that. So,
Yep.
So I think, what's important for us and just, oh, sorry, yeah, just like that? All right, I should know that by now. So what's important for us in this submission is we've been working for a year towards this resolution. We've come up with a lot of different plans and opportunities to bring this to life. We worked through CDOT and some finalizing that permit and working through those design ideas, trying to really bring forth something that would be the most and best use of the space. It is an RV park, so the ability to utilize entry and exit, backup, driving, parking, all those things that go with the space was a bit of a challenge, especially with, the size of the lot, as well as that, 60-foot easement along the back that takes away from the property on the, east and the north side. So it's a pretty small lot with acreage as well as that reduction. So we looked for many opportunities. One of the plans we submitted, yes, showed some opportunities, but definitely not the best opportunities for the project. In this case, having security and having the ability to invert the buildings inside so that your doors all open to the interior of the space was really important to us for security, so that you see a prettier back of the building along the highway as well, to not have everything centered in the middle of the space. With that, we also know that this is the best way to lay out the space for the patron utilizing it. And so that is why our plan is set out the way it is. And we're happy to answer any questions that you may have about our design and why we did what we did. We've been working through it for over a year, so we're ready to see it come to fruition. So,
Thank you for that. Any questions from the board for the applicant or staff?
If you put some clarification on, excuse me, on created a hardship. What, define that?
So, actually, let me see if I can look in my regs to see if we actually have a definition of that. So, I don't know if I'm going to have the actual definition of that there for us, sir.
I mean, there evidently was it a design flaw or a safety flaw or something that created a unnecessary,
Well,
undesirable?
so I would say that the design creating hardship on this project would be that since it is a barren vacant lot and it is usable, it's not that the parcels, it's not that the parcel is not usable, right? A design can go in, this could work, but in order to make it, use their own words, in order to make it visually more appealing, safety to the inside. During one of the BOZA meetings, one of the things that was brought up to make it financially viable for the person, and this is a business lot and this is a business, that makes sense. You want to make it as viable as you can. So to increase the intensity and add more units there would benefit the owner. But right now, with it being a vacant piece of land, it's not undevelopable. It could be developed, it's just not at the scale that they're hoping for, and which is why they requested that variance.
Will everything be parked in this, will it be undercover?
yes.
Yes.
All the storage.
So you can't fill those up and then park stuff around the back and on the,
Yeah, hold on.
That would be super helpful, because then you can see it in real time.
Yeah. So, and I mean, everything's been satisfied with the project. It's just that the design itself, we feel, is too intense and it just doesn't meet our regulations. We just got done with a code review and no part of that code review was revising setbacks for that zone district or any issues with that zone district. So, all business lots would like to be more viable for their person, right? For the person that owns it. We understand that, but there's got to be a line somewhere.
so the,
In order to make
what
this.
you're saying is the footprint's too big, we're filling the lot up, it's
They-
not safe
Yeah,
for
so
people to
it-
pull in and out?
Yeah, so what I'm saying is, the intensity is that at which it's being proposed needed our setbacks to, a variance from our setbacks and our setbacks to be reduced by 30 feet. The fact that the property can be developed, the attempt is to make it, as intense as they possibly can to benefit their client, which I understand.
Sure.
But what about every other business zone district in the county? They would like to be as financially viable for their clients as well. Like, we have a standard that applies at a certain point. So they don't have an unusable piece of land. They can't meet the intensity that their client would like.
So I think the only clarification I want to make is, in our BOZA meeting, we never used financially viable.
That was said.
It's not in the notes.
It's if we watch the video, it's in the,
Okay.
it was said. Mike, is it A2?
Yeah, it should be the. Yeah, those are just images of the site versus the.
Do you guys want a laser pointer for anything that's up there?
Well, I wasn't sure if you have a rendering that shows what's in the site or not, that has what the architect put together.
She's having Mike drive, so.
Okay.
If you could get us to perhaps page 2 of the 11 by 17 sheets, that would be good. I think that's
They would be kind
how
of
about
maroon
C3?
and beige.
C3.
I'm doing too
Because
much
that
on my
shows
computer and
the-
glitching it out.
There we go. Okay, so that's what we're talking about here.
So, the issue questions where the notice of variance was given was this property line right here. So, they have a 10-foot setback. They have a 10-foot setback instead of 40 as that zone district requires, because if they had to abide by the 40-foot setback, they would be potentially out there and they wouldn't have that interior pattern that they're hoping to have, and they wouldn't have the doors facing to the interior to make it more visually appealing. All of those things I understand, they're valid points, it doesn't meet what we allow.
I do have a couple of questions that may generate some more conversation. So, although it's a little bit hard to see on this plan, you do have a vehicle tire cleaning mat. Do I understand that correctly? They're kind of in the middle of the facility?
We're going to trade off a little bit.
Sure.
Hi, Jim Brostovich, Civil Resources, engineer who designed this. Yes, there's a vehicle tracking pad. That's a temporary thing for during construction. So
That's
that'll be
construction
gone.
only?
That's only during construction.
And don't you also have a structure for vehicle wash, wheel wash? Is that?
I don't think we had a wheel wash on this one, but all those are just temporary things. Once the facility is open, that'll all be gone.
There will be no water available there, is that correct?
There's no water available to the tenants. There will be a service here that the owner can use if a tenant is changing hands and they need to hose down something, but that's going to be locked. It's not available to the tenants. There's no water for customers to fill up their RVs or anything like that. It's just really for convenience of the owner.
Concrete washout for.
Has the
Yeah.
fire hydrant
So,
requirement been there all along?
There's actually already a fire hydrant on the plan, so we
Okay.
have no problem with that contingency
Okay,
item.
good.
It's actually already on the plan.
so I'm referring to sheet C 7.0, where you show the vehicle tracking control and then a concrete washout area. That's what,
Yeah, that's
Construction.
during construction only.
thank you. And so
How
that,
yeah.
during construction, you'll have a water truck or something on site if you
So
need it.
we're just required when it has to do with tracking dirt and anything else in and out of that, so
Sure.
we're not taking it onto the highway.
Sure.
So we'd have problems with CDOT and everyone else. So it's to clean that all on site, but it will go away as soon as construction is over.
Thank you. That satisfies my question. Also, on this plan, maybe with the pointer, I saw a reference somewhere to a owner lounge or operator lounge. Is that correct?
Previous version of the plan.
That was a
Yep.
previous version.
Yeah, that was a much earlier version of this one.
Gotcha.
We've
All
been,
right.
yeah, we've all been working on this one for about a year, so it's scaled back from some of the original items.
So right now, there is not an intent to have a person on site full-time or part-time? Will there be a part-time person on site?
Nobody on site. There's no office.
Nobody on site,
It's
no
just,
office,
it's just storage.
just storage.
The owner will have everyone come and sign in with him, and he'll meet them on site to give them the location of theirs, and then once they rent it, everything's done digitally for them. So they have him to get a hold of, but he will not be on site.
Not on site. Thank you. That satisfies my question there. So the, there will not be water, you're not going to have a water service from the,
No, as I mentioned, I'm not sure what sheet it's on, but there's already a water service to the site. We're going to keep that service. It'll be a locked hose bib that the owner can use for maintenance only. But none of the tenants will have access to that.
thank you.
So this is gonna be a place you can store your RV all year long and just take it out when you want it, but there's no place to clean it or service it or wash it down?
No, there's not. There's no sewer available to this site.
I can't believe there's that much activity and that much building and that much commerce going on and there's no sanitation facility. Surely somebody's gonna pull in there someday with a full tank and all those and I'd rather see them emptying in that than in that ditch back there.
Yes, emptying in the ditch would be illegal. But no, there's no
You don't
sanit-
have to have, like, what do they call those, a dump or whatever it is, a
Yeah,
pleasant term?
those dumps are typically hooked up to a municipal sewer. There's no sewer out
That's
here.
that's my
Yeah,
point.
There's no sewer available anywhere near this location.
Not even if you have a septic tank.
A septic tank would be very maintenance intensive, for, it's really not something the owner wants to provide.
So your contracts will all specify this, correct?
Yes, all of these preliminary realities within this is that they must be washed and cleaned, all these things done off-site. So this is just for you to be able to have a place to store it when you don't have a place in front of your house or on your land.
And that's, that was just the reason why I brought up if there was some sort of spill response plan, rather than identifying who made the spill on site, just something detailing what they would do to address a spill, which isn't a big ask. It should be pretty easy. I think we've discussed that.
Yes, and we will provide that, no problem.
And then my concern with sanitation was more for the individuals there going to pick up or something, not necessarily doing a dump station. And it's just that whole, that's the ditch right up on top. So with the proximity to the ditch in the back, somebody has an emergency, they're clearly not going towards 115. So the back of the buildings puts them next to the ditch, and that's a concern.
So what would satisfy that requirement? Just a biffy?
I mean, something as simple as a chemical toilet would probably be reasonable. On a lot of the mini storages facilities we have, we don't require a chemical toilet. But this one, with the proximity to the ditch and the layout of it and knowing the area, there's not many options. So we feel something as simple as a chemical toilet isn't a giant ask, and may address any concerns that would occur.
Yeah, the applicant would agree to that condition. We've got space to put a pad in to put a chemical toilet in, so.
So the main stumbling block is the front setback.
That front setback is a real hard one for us. We think that BOZA granted a variance in error, and we think that they, part of BOZA does speak of the intent of the regulations, but it clearly states that all 4 of these criteria that I have detailed in the staff report must be met, and we feel that 2 of them just plainly do not. So that's the big sticking point. I've gone in front of you guys very little with recommendation of denial before. I don't take this lightly. I wouldn't want to hinder development. I don't think that variance was issued correctly, and I think that jeopardizes this whole project.
If I may offer something to that regard, I'd just like to respectfully just state that just calling your attention to the Fremont County zoning regulations 7.4.1 regarding interpretation, that the BOZA shall have the power to interpret this resolution, including any uncertainty as to boundary, location, or meaning of wording, so long as this interpretation is not contrary to the purposes and intent of this resolution. The BOZA has interpreted the resolution and found this CDP to be justified in the approved 10-foot setback variance off Highway 115. This variance approved complies with the Fremont County Zoning Resolution 1.7 interpretation, conflicts, validity, interpretation. The provisions of this resolution shall be interpreted and applied to be the minimum required for the proper protection and public health and morals and the promotion of safety and general welfare. As stated in Fremont County Zoning Resolution Section 1.3 purpose, these regulations are designed and enacted for the purpose of promoting the health, safety, morals, convenience, order, prosperity, and welfare of the present and future inhabitants of Fremont County, including lessening the congestion in streets or roads or reducing the waste of excessive amounts of roads, promoting energy conservation, securing safety from fire, floodwater, and other dangers, providing adequate light and air, classifying land uses and land development and utilization, protecting the tax base, securing economy in governmental expenditures, fostering the state's agricultural and other industries, and protecting both urban and non-urban development. So I just feel strongly, if we're going to use the stance of feeling on this, I believe that the BOZA have within their powers and their rights of interpretation, and that they have applied that applicably to this particular case, that there is no harm to be done to the area, to the residents. In fact, it would actually be mutually beneficial for the layout to be as it has been presented, for the inhabitants nearby, that they may have some privacy. You know, one of the things that my dad taught me was that you don't allow everybody to see your personal belongings. I just had to teach my son that you don't allow people to see the money you carry on yourself, on your person. You don't allow someone to see a weapon you carry upon yourself. My dad said, you don't leave your garage door open. You don't allow people to see what's in your home. So to have the buildings facing inwardly is a protection to everybody as well. And the only way that that can happen is if we can have the full utilization of this property. I think one of the things that's fair to say as well is that there were aspects to the site that the owner unfortunately was not aware of when he purchased the property, that are not shown on these plats from the earlier plats, that allow him to see that there is this setback requirement by the county. That front 40-foot setback was not something that was shown on his plat prior to purchasing this property. How is he supposed to know that, to accommodate for that, and to consider that in whether or not this is going to be a, you know, a business that he can, or a piece of land that he can use? So I just want to call that back here, that the BOZA had the authority to rule the way that they did, and I believe that their ruling should stand. So thank you for that.
Thank you for that. Questions or comments?
I just have a couple of questions regarding the setback. Now, BOZA did approve moving the buildings forward, correct? And the front of the building, the actual door openings are going to be on the inside of the lot, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, if you move those buildings to a different location, what would that setback, could that be used for storing vehicles?
If that's how they proposed it. So during one of the BOZAs, they did show an option B where a different layout that was less intense, less units, was available and could be put on this location. It just, it wasn't the most viable for the client.
Okay.
So it could be developed, and yes, that could be a travel corridor out in those setbacks or something like that. It could be designed differently, but it ultimately would yield less units, I believe.
Well, what I'm getting at is that, to my way of thinking, it would seem like if you had the buildings the way they're located there, and you had some kind of landscaping in front of them to break up the mass of the building, it seemed to me like that would be more advantageous than having vehicles stored out there, visible from the street. At least now they're going to be inside, and you won't be able to see them as readily from the highway. And that was a big deal years ago with wrecking yards and junkyards. Get fences around them. We don't want to see these vehicles. Now, I to my way of thinking, if that's a pretty good layout, I would say, rather than trying to put vehicles out there in the front, where they would be accessible, or visible from the street, from the highway.
Yeah, and like I said, the redesign, if it put the buildings into the center, you could still have your vehicles going into doors. It's just the doors would be facing to the outside instead of the inside. The point the applicant was just making was that by having the doors to the inside, it keeps privacy private, right? But this potentially could meet our regulations with a different design. That's what I keep going back to. It is just the design right now. I'm not saying it's a bad design, but it's too intense for this law, I believe. And that's why I'm making the recommendation that I am. It's a small lot, but we all know that if you purchase something and you have the intent to do something with it, you should be doing your homework ahead of time and not say that you have a hardship because you didn't do your due diligence ahead of time and you can't make what you want now, so you want to be exempt from the rules that everyone else has to follow. So I've never once said this is a bad design. It's just too intense for this project based off of my regulations.
If we were to approve this with those as it's designed, with the county commissioners kick it back because of the zoning issues?
So the county commissioners are the only ones that have the right to overturn a BOZA variance. So it would have to go to them. So even if you guys made the recommendation to deny, it would still go in front of the board and county commissioners unless the applicant wanted to redesign. If they wanted to roll the dice with the county commissioners, we would schedule appropriately and move on. During the county commissioner meeting, we would all have the same discussion. It would be up to the county commissioners if they chose to uphold the BOZA variance or to rescind the BOZA variance. Now, if they uphold the BOZA variance, the design works. If they decide that BOZA didn't meet the criteria that they have to make a decision, then they would have no other choice but to deny the application. So that's kind of how this is going to play out.
Okay, so basically the setback issue is predicated on the fact that they're accessing off 115, correct? Because now that's the front of the lot, and that's where that,
Yes,
that's where that
absolutely.
front
So-
distance comes from.
Yes, sir. And one of the original plans until recently had referenced a future access out to an undeveloped county road, but it complicated the application. We had a discussion and it was removed from the plan because after they got their CDOT permit that did not have restrictions, they did not need a secondary access that would be more beneficial. So the site plan was just modified, I believe the 22nd. I think we received it. Your guys dated like 9th or 10th. So they had just redesigned the plan to show, to take away a different access point. Because originally, up until January, there was going to be an auxiliary access out that portion of the property. But it complicated it because if that was going to be the future access, then it was going to change which line was the frontage, and then it was going to make another building out of compliance in the future. So it was just removed from the plans.
Okay. So I guess my final question would be, with the setback allowed by BOZA, and this is a conforming lot,
Yep.
basically for development for zoning purposes, would that be considered conforming if we went ahead and gave a blessing to this? Because I'm pretty sure that's what the board's going to look at, the BOCC is going to look at. They want businesses and lots to be conforming.
Yes. Yep. Everything would be conforming at that time.
So at that point, if we approve this with the conditions that you've stipulated here.
Yes, sir.
And send it on up to the board, then that would be considered conforming.
Yeah, there would be no issues.
Okay.
If I'm interpreting BOZA's actions incorrectly, and the BOCC chooses to approve this, then this is a conforming design. Everything works.
Okay, thank you.
But point of clarity, it's only conforming because they're allowed a different setback.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. Can you clarify? I was lost a little bit. So they're asking for a 10-foot variance on a 50-foot setback?
40-foot setback.
They're asking for a 10-foot variance on
Yeah, so they
a
were
40-foot setback.
they were granted their front setback to go from 40 feet to 10 feet.
To 10 feet, so.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So if it hadn't have gone before BOZA, they would be having to ask us for the same variance, right?
It just wouldn't have conformed and it never would have made it to you.
Gotcha. Understood. I guess my only comment on it, I do think that it's a fairly rough precedence to set, that I think that, you know, if we approve this, we'll see a lot more of these. That would be my comment on it, that, you know, what's to stop anybody else from wanting apartments or anything else, you know? I mean, density is density, whether it's business or whether it's residential, and that's half the reason we're here, is make sure that things are developed responsibly. So I just think it's kind of a dangerous precedence to set.
Other questions or comments from the board?
You know, is that 40 feet from the actual highway or 40 feet from the highway? Do they have
From the property line, sir.
from the property line? How
Yep.
far from the highway is the property line towards their property?
It's approximately 80 feet to the edge of the pavement.
80 feet from your,
From the building to the edge of the
So it's
concrete.
80 feet.
About approximately 80 feet. But that's not how setbacks are measured to the pavement. They're measured to property line.
Right. So I knew there's probably an easement or a side to their highway.
Other questions or comments from the board? I have not researched this myself, but in city code, the Board of Zoning Adjustment is the final authority. And even the city council cannot overturn a BOZA decision. I'm not sure we have the authority to overturn a BOZA decision, and I don't think it's appropriate for us to be reviewing BOZA decisions. If the Board of County Commissioners, have the authority to look at that and they want to do that, I think that's fine. But I don't think that we as a board have the authority to go back and rehear a BOZA request, which is essentially what we would be doing if we denied the BOZA variance. The applicants are good with providing a hazardous spill procedure plan that addresses contamination,
Yes, we are.
and a copy of the CDOT notice to proceed,
Yes, we are.
and an approved noxious weed control plan.
Yes, we are.
And there is an existing fire hydrant, as I understand it?
Yes, sir, there is.
Does that, and Dan, does that meet our requirements, the existing fire
Um,
hydrant?
Correct me if I'm wrong, I thought
It's on our
the,
plan. It's not on the
it's-
site, but it's on our plan to be installed.
yeah,
I
it's gonna be a new
apologize.
one, yeah.
Thank you.
We already have it planned to be
Yeah, so-
installed. That'll be the
So
first
it's
thing
not
that we
installed
do.
yet, it will be installed, yes.
Yes, that's what I meant. I apologize.
And you don't have any problems with providing a chemical toilet?
Not at all. We're fine with doing that.
Okay. So we're kind of, this is kind of a tough one because there's lots of moving parts to this one, but from my perspective, the applicants are good with the contingency items. I don't think we have the authority to overturn or even recommend that it was, yes.
Point of order.
Sure.
Legal counsel here,
Negative. Sorry, sir.
because I'd like a clarification from them, because I'm not sure what you're saying is true, as far as that we don't have the ability to disregard what the BOZA does.
Pretty sure we're parallel.
That's different. So we could do whatever we want to, what we feel is right. The Board of County Commissioners will make the final decision as to which one they think is right.
Well, I understand
my
what you're saying,
opinion.
but I don't think we have the authority to review BOZA decisions. That's the bottom line. I don't think we have
Well-
that authority. If the board, wishes to come to a different conclusion, that's fine, but
Well, wouldn't the board the board has the authority or the responsibility to review both of our actions, both BOZA and our action. So I'm of the opinion that what we should do is just go ahead and recommend approval with these contingencies and then let the board make the final decision. They're going to do it anyway.
Is that a motion?
do I have, is that a motion?
I'd like to make that a motion, but I'm not sure how to do it.
Well,
So the motion would be
I would
to,
make the motion that we approve based on the contingencies listed for the staff report and send it on up to the county commissioners.
I'll second.
we have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion?
Yes, did
Yeah.
we say anything in there upon a decision on how the BOZA,
Excuse me, say again?
would there be something in there we should say about contingent on how the BOZA question is ruled?
The,
Because I've been taught all along, like you, that you can't overrule BOZA.
the staff will make sure that question is asked of the commissioners.
Okay.
As I understand the staff.
And this will give us direct feedback about whether we can or cannot do this.
can I ask staff one more time? So under the staff recommendations, what was the recommendation in reference to BOZA?
So the recommendation, the department would recommend a new application to meet all of Fremont County regulations and the revocation of the BOZA variance.
Right, so we wouldn't be revocating anything. We would be.
Recommendation to,
Yeah, recommendation to revoke that.
yes.
That's what you're asking us
That is the ask, yes.
Understood.
Further discussion? Okay, then we're ready for a vote. Want to get us started?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Congratulations, you got a project going to the county commissioners now.
Finally. Good luck.
We appreciate it.
And
Thank you.
with that, we have no further business, and so we are adjourned.